Welcome, IT changemakers, to the DEX Show with Tim Flower and Tom McGraw. Let's get into it.
Hello, changemakers. Welcome to the DEX Show. I'm Tom McGraw, joined as ever by Tim Flower. Tim, what's going on?
Hey, Mr. McGraw, how you doing? Yeah, we were just talking a little bit, right? Summer's heating up. Indeed. Things are getting hot over here. Glad for another week to be done, and looking forward to a relaxing weekend.
It's getting hot in here, but keep on all your clothes, Tim. Okay, as a pointer.
No worries.
All right. Just checking. We got a great show for the people today. We're going to be talking about the intersection between psychology and tech, and how they're bridged by data and realized by UX. To guide us, we have a fellow Nexthinker with us, Oriana Ott, a senior UX researcher who helps our product team understand customers' goals and challenges. Oriana, welcome to the DEX Show. Real pleasure to have you.
Thank you. It's a delight to be here.
Yes, I mean, let's start, if we could, with your own truly fascinating and singular, I think, professional journey. You studied psychology, then you did a postgraduate on computer science, if I'm not mistaken. Talk to us about that experience and that transition.
Absolutely. So my undergraduate degree was in psychology, and I was very focused on social psychology. I knew that I wanted to understand how do people work and exist and interact in context, right? How are we in the world, rather than trying to understand things like pathology. I'm very interested in technology too. Even when I was in college, I was actually working at an IT help desk, which I think gives me a unique perspective and empathy to some of our users who are trying to provide, the best possible services to their end users.
That's amazing. And how did you develop your career from that point?
So I knew that I wanted to apply the work that I was doing to the real world. I wanted the work that I do to have an impact on people's day-to-day experiences. So that brought me to user experience research. And my computer science degree is a master's in human-computer interaction. So it's all about understanding how do we interact with technology, how do we create technology, how do we benefit from technology, and how do we make it better for people?
And do you see the two areas, technology and psychology, as coming closer together in recent years? And why is that, if so?
So I think that the point of technology is that it's something that we've created for us to use. So if you go back to the original definition of technology, everything's technology. The first technology was probably a fire, right? And we created it to warm ourselves, to tell stories around. And that's how I think of all of our modern technology, all of our computers and software and hardware. It's all about how does it make people's lives better? How does it bring people together?
Actually, I've seen 2001 Space Odyssey. The first piece of technology was a bone used as a weapon. Just wanted to correct the record just there, Oriana. I mean, if you think about these two areas in closer proximity, as you say, psychology and tech, I mean, how big a role in bringing them together and creating new opportunities is data in this picture?
I think data introduces some really exciting questions, especially the advent of big data, because human brains can't really process big data effectively. Human brains are sense-making machines, they're pattern-recognizing machines. We're great at trying to figure things out from information. But when it comes to big data, it can be really hard for us to figure out how do we process that, how do we make that meaningful? And that's where technology can help us mediate that understanding. So we need to use software to help us boil down this huge ocean of information into something that humans can consume.
And Ariana, I love having a fellow Nexthinker on the show with us. It's good to have people hear Nexthinker voices other than just Tom and me. But what I also love is that linkage of fire to technology, because there are a lot of IT shops out there that are actually on fire. There are firefighters running around putting out fires all day long. So when you look at IT specifically, IT teams, is psychology something of a missing factor for them?
I think one of the challenges for IT teams is that they were sold this story that they were going to be fixing problems for people from behind a computer and that they could help people out in a way that makes sense to them, right? A lot of people who are working in IT are highly technical people. That means that they weren't necessarily given the tools to address the human side of this, right? We have euphemisms like problem is between computer and chair because people want to be tactful, right? Like I've never met an IT person who's like, yeah, I want to make my users feel bad, right? People in IT want to solve problems. It's just you can't solve humans. So the question then becomes, how do we provide that great level of service and address these issues in ways that make sense for both sides of this equation? When it comes to sort of the technical versus the squishy human side, I think a lot of people sometimes struggle with too is this balance between what even is psychology, right? Is it this squishy intuition? Is it hard science that's really inaccessible? I would argue it's neither, right? It's very easy to dismiss psychology as squishy or soft science, or to be so intimidated by it that you don't want to engage. What we're trying to do here at Nexthink, of course, is make human factors more accessible to a wide range of people, including people who don't necessarily have the toolbox of psychology to start addressing those human problems.
Yeah, those are great points. And I've said for a long time, and I said it even on a previous episode here, the technology is the easy part. It's the people that are hard, right? And you mentioned a little bit of the work at Nexthink. Talk a little bit about, for people that don't already know, talk a little bit about how Nexthink has always been unique in integrating that user psychology into the technology
The
platform.
squishy part, Tim, use the technical term.
The squishy part.
Yeah, so how do we make that less squishy? How do we put a handle on that, really? I like the term handle or the analogy of a handle because my field comes from the field of human factors that started out with literally how do we build better handles, right? Like a better door handle. And those are the principles that you learn in my field when you're first training. And then we come to things like big data. How do we put a handle on that? It's almost incomprehensible. So one of the things that Nexthink has done from the beginning is, one, how do you make this extremely complex data usable to you, because we give you so much information in Nexthink. And then the other part is, how do we make it meaningful? And the meaningful component is really understanding the impact on the end users, understanding how employees are being affected by the challenges they experience with their technology in their day-to-day setting. That's one of the things that I think is really great about Nexthink, is that it's bringing those two together. One half is only half the picture.
Without a doubt. So you're on the UX team. Tell us a little bit more about how that Nexthink UX team fits into the product picture.
So the Nexthink UX team works very, very closely with the rest of product. So we have something called a product triad, which is the product managers, the engineers, and the designers who are always working very closely on the development of new features, new tools, and also on working on the existing material that we have and constantly figuring out how can we improve this, how can we keep it current and relevant, make sure that it's fixing real problems for real customers. And that's where the UX research comes in. We are there to help make sure that we're always anchored in the real experiences of our customers and their end users. We try to build empathy and understanding for those experiences through a variety of research methods that help get us insight into the goals and challenges of our customers.
Speaking of those customers, Oriana, they're obviously surveying and collecting sentiment data all the time. How does that data then used to further enhance user experience?
So when it comes to that question of how do we get these different components working together, I like to define the types of data we have as quantitative data and qualitative data. So quantitative data are those things that we can measure numerically, and qualitative data is everything about people's experiences. Now, quantitative data tells us what are people doing, right? How many people have had a crash in how much time, how frequently, for how long. That's all quantitative data, and it's super useful to know what's going on. Qualitative data tells us, how does this affect people? What does it mean? What are people's behaviors in response to issues? So qualitative data is what gives meaning to the quantitative data we have. This is something that I've heard talking to our customers as well. They look at a dashboard, for example, and they can see as in the previous example, the number of crashes, and they want to know how big a priority is this because of the way it's affecting people's day. So the employees, so how's this affecting my end users in terms of productivity and experience? And that's where qualitative data is so invaluable, is it gives you that importance in that context.
How do you strike the balance, Oriana, however, between those two types of data to get a kind of meaningful, accessible overall picture?
I think there's a few ways that we do that. Some of it is how we present the data in the product. We definitely are always working to figure out what is it that people are looking for, right? What is the information that you need to make a decision? For example, how do you prioritize different kinds of work when there are so many possible things that you could be tackling? So that's one of the places where we think about how do we provide you with context using qualitative data. The other is, for example, how do you evaluate your program? How do you evaluate success in terms of the very real impact that you have on people? And we can do that with both quantitative and qualitative data. This is where XLAs are so great and so valuable, is it gives you a way of quantifying information that is fundamentally subjective, but really critical. You can build business goals that are aligned with what you want to achieve as an organization and figure out how it's actually the result of the actions that you take as an IT team and the impact that it has on the end user. And I think those are the two things that I always want to make sure we're making accessible to our customers, because I'm hearing from them, that's what I need to know. I need to know, am I being successful as an organization at meeting our business goals? And am I being successful in delivering a positive experience that improves the profile of the IT organization, builds trust, builds confidence, and creates that good DEX?
And I mean, what do you think IT teams in general can learn from the approach we're discussing today? Do you think there are some for whom the squishy part of their work is still not something they're ready to approach? And, you know, how would you encourage them to embrace this and begin to embrace this aspect of modern IT?
So first of all, I want to give credit where credit is due. I'm a UX researcher. I get all of this information directly from our customers. So when we're talking about, setting business goals, making sure that we're achieving impact, this is all things I've learned from talking to our customers. And they are the ones who are the innovators who are making this happen. So what I've heard at some organizations is that you have IT leaders who are the ones promoting goals like XLAs, where they look at the impact of their work on the end users to measure success. One of the challenges they've mentioned is, and when I say they, I do mean multiple people have mentioned this challenge, is getting buy-in from different organizations or different departments within one company, for example. This is where IT leadership is really important. They're the ones who are collaborating across different organizations, figuring out the goals of the different teams, and understanding how does our work support your work. I also have a lot of empathy as a UX researcher for IT teams, because everything I do is completely meaningless unless somebody else uses it, right? I can talk about all the things our customers say until I'm blue in the face, but really what it comes down to is I'm working with amazing designers, amazing engineers, and product managers who care deeply about our customers and therefore want to implement the recommendations we make. They want to understand, how do we meet those needs? And I think it's the same thing with IT. They may understand the challenge, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done to promote those solutions and the approaches that the thought leaders in the IT community want to implement. And that can be a really big challenge. That's where the strategic thinkers really shine. And that's where people who have been thrust into this role often rely heavily on their communities to understand, okay, I was a computer person, and now you're telling me I have to be a politician. Give me the tools to do that effectively. Help me communicate this data, right? When we report out the results of a change to the DEX score, I want to be able to show why this is valuable and important and why all of this computer work I'm doing really matters to people.
I love that sentiment, that it really matters. And and putting our customers first is the same thing we advocate with our customers to put their employees first, right? It's all full circle. And it's one of the things I think that sets us apart is that our platform is really customer centric, elegant, easy to use. So all of your work is definitely seen. As Tom and I wrap conversations out, we like to take out the crystal ball and look into the future a little bit. So how do you see technology and psychology continuing to grow together in the coming years? There's lots of room in this space for additional improvements. So what excites you most about this space at large, and where do you see it going in the next couple of years?
So many things. One of them is that we have so much choice. We have more choice than ever. And that's where the human experience is so critical, because you're not just choosing the one computer that exists, the one operating system that exists, right? I was just having a conversation last night with some family members about their early experiences with computers that took up an entire basement. The experience of using punch cards to program their research. And that's not what we're dealing with now. We have hundreds of choices for everything from hardware to software. And what really differentiates competitors is the experience they deliver. We're seeing this in the workplace too, right? People want to work at a company that cares about their well-being, and companies are realizing that they can benefit from creating a better workplace. So I think that really, when it comes down to it, the differentiator of technology in the future will absolutely be experience, especially because we're constantly surrounded by technology. From the moment I wake up in the morning to when I go to sleep at night, I'm using technology. So I do expect to have really great experiences in everything, and especially in my work, because it's so much of what I'm doing.
Oriana, that was fascinating to have you on the show. Once again, I'd like to direct all listeners interested in that bridging of the squishy with the hard to visit our DEX show, DEX Hub Mothership, where you can find a lot of articles that cover topics such as Oriana's been discussing today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Oriana.
To make sure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a rating of the show. Just tap the number of stars you think the podcast deserves. If you'd like to learn more about how Nexthink can help you improve your digital employee experience, head over to nexthink.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.